everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we'll be completing in today's video, this fun adventure car drawing, perfect for summer. Very simple, but it takes a while to really get the car shape and stuff, but simple overall. So we'll start with our background, then we'll lay down our hills and our sun and our ground, and then we'll spend a good amount of time getting our car done, and then we'll add the trees in at the very end after our car is placed where we want it. So if you are new here, I mainly post Procreate tutorials, so if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and subscribe. I also offer extra tutorials over on Patreon, so if you choose to support me over there, you'll get access to exclusive tutorials every month, as well as sneak peeks of what we're drawing over here on YouTube. So here are some of the tutorials that we've done recently over there, and that's linked in the description below if you'd like to check that out. But before I get started on today's drawing, the only thing that you will need is the two color palettes that we use. We do use two color palettes, so those are linked in the description below. They're totally free to download. Just download them both to your iPad, and then for each one, just double tap on it or click on it and click Open in Procreate so that you can use the same colors as you follow along with the video today. I will also post the canvas dimensions, color profile, and layers needed on the screen and in the description below so that you can use those to set up your canvas. So take a minute to get everything ready and then come back and we'll get started. So these are the two color palettes that we'll be working with today. We needed two just because there's so many colors, so many different variations of all of our colors to get all of our highlights and shadows and stuff. So we'll start on Adventure Car 1 to do our sky, our sun, our background hills, and our ground, and then we'll move on to number 2 to do our car and the trees on the hills to finish it off. So we are just going to be on Adventure Car 1. Let's just grab that first color on the first row, be on layer 1 on our layer menu, and we'll drag and drop that color onto our canvas to fill it in. Okay, so now we have two lighter colors that we'll make like a gradient with. So this darker color that we just filled in is going to stay on the outer edges, and then it'll get lighter towards the center. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer. And then let's go to our second color on the top row. Grab our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. My opacity on the brush is at 100. My size is at like 30. And we're just going to draw a nice good sized circle. So I'm just going to draw a good circle shape, hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth, and then touch your finger on the screen to make it a perfect circle. Pretty big, but don't let it go off the edge at all, so we can resize it here in a second if we need to. So don't let it go off the edges, but let it go. Drag and drop to fill it in. And then with our arrow tool on uniform, with snapping turned on in the bottom left, we can first of all resize it if we need to, and then most importantly center it on our two yellow lines there so it's directly in the center of our canvas. So I want to make it a little bit bigger. We just want the darker color like right on the edges, so I'm going to go pretty much almost all the way to the edge, all the way around. Something like that is good. And I centered it again. Then we'll go to our layer menu. We'll make a duplicate of this layer, so slide to the left and hit duplicate on our circle. Be on the top one. Grab our next color, third one on the top row, the lightest of these three. Drag and drop to fill that circle in. Arrow tool on uniform, and we'll downsize it a good amount and then recenter it again on those yellow lines, or you might get blue lines also trying to center you with the other circle. So just whatever works to get in the center there. Again, just kind of like a good amount right there, like so. So we have our three different colors. Then on our layer menu, let's go ahead and snap those three layers together. So our square on layer 1 with our two circles all onto one layer. And now we'll blur them together. So then we'll go to our wand icon, click Gaussian blur, and drag this up a good amount to like 50 to 60%, somewhere in there, to get a nice good gradient going, like so. Beautiful. Now we'll go ahead and make our hills. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer above this background. And we'll start with our darker hill in the back. So we'll grab our first color on the second row to start this. Same monoline brush at 30%. And we're just going to kind of have them kind of offset each other. So I'm going to start maybe like almost halfway up on the left side. And we're going to kind of go up, down, up higher, and then down on the right side. Something kind of like that. I'll go a little bit faster to get a nice smooth line. Maybe that looks good. kind of a fun shape. Then it goes off the edge on the left and right side, so let's go ahead and fill that in. Then on our layer menu, let's just go ahead and add a new layer, and we'll do our next hill to start. So that's going to be with our 5th color on the 2nd row, right after this really dark one. And we'll kind of do like the opposite. So I'll start a little lower on this side, and then we'll go up and then kind of down more like this. So I'll do that again, maybe not quite as high as our peak on our back one. So maybe I'll go kind of more like that, something like that instead, and then go ahead and fill that in. So just get a couple shapes that you like, but yeah, we want our back one to be a little bit higher, but they can be really fun and stuff. Okay, so those are our 2 hills. So now we're going to texture and highlight them and stuff. So let's start with our back one. Let's add a new layer above it. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask. So our base color was the first one on the 2nd row. We're going to go to the second one on the 2nd row, slightly lighter, and we're going to lay down a texture with this. So the texture is under the artistic category, this coal brush. I have the opacity of that at 100. I have my size at maybe 30. And we're just going to go through, and I'm just going to push really hard all the way through without picking my brush up and just cover the whole thing with this texture. So it's just a little slight variation on our background color there. So you just see the texture just a little bit to start. Okay, so then we're going to recolor some of it so that we have some shadows and highlights, but we don't want to add another clipping mask because it just clips to this base shape. So what we need to do to preserve our texture is click on this clipping mask with our texture on it and set it to alpha lock. So now we're only coloring within this texture, so anything that's like on the screen will be recolored as we go. So you'll see what I mean here in a second, but now we have a much lighter and then a much darker color for this next little bit. So we'll highlight it and shadow it. So let's grab our highlight color first, 3rd one on the 2nd row, and the brush that we're going to use for this now is going to be the soft brush under the airbrushing category. So I have my opacity at 100. We'll do our size at maybe like 10. Adjust that if you need to, maybe 7 to 10, somewhere in there. But we're going to add a highlight now. So just on the top parts of the hills here, I'm going to come in and do a good highlight. But again, now you can like really see our texture pop even more. And that is what we're going for. We want to see the texture, but we just want to recolor it so that we get some more variation. Awesome. And then let's grab our shadow color. So same layer, same brush, just switch to the 4th color on the 2nd row. And starting like next to our other hill here, we'll start there. I might lower my size a little bit to maybe like 7. And yeah, we'll kind of go through here and add a little bit of a shadow. Nothing too crazy. Just kind of something like that. Okay, then lastly, we're going to add one more kind of highlight layer. So on our layer menu, let's add another new layer. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask. Click the N and set it to overlay. Grab the last color on the 2nd row. It's 9th in line, this kind of creamy color. Same brush. Let's maybe drop our size to like 5%. And now we can do even more of a highlight. So I'm just going to touch the tops even a little bit more. Just here and there. And then we can also kind of like go through and kind of lightly add some more of this, kind of to create some more like dimension and stuff. So something like that is all that I did. And then it's a little bright, so I'm going to lower the opacity on it. So on our layer menu, click the O on this layer, and we'll lower the opacity a little bit to maybe like 60 to 70%. So we just want a little bit of that there. Now we're going to do the exact same thing for the front hill. So on our front hill layer at the top, let's add a layer above it. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask. And the base color that we used was this 5th one on the 2nd row. So let's grab the 6th one right next to it, just slightly lighter. And we'll again lay our texture down first. So that's under the artistic category again, the coal brush. And we'll just lay one good layer of this down without picking my brush up. Boom. Okay, then on our layer menu, let's click on this layer and turn on alpha lock so we can recolor it. Stay on that layer though, and now we have a darker and lighter version again. So let's grab the darker version now, 7th on the 2nd row, and switch back to our airbrush, soft brush under the airbrushing category. Size back up to maybe 10 or so. And this is our shadow color, so I'm just going to kind of do this mostly like towards the ground and kind of come up and then kind of just let it like lightly fade out. So some of this will be covered with our like street or whatever, the ground there, but just kind of have this come up into our hills a little bit like so. Then on our color palette, let's grab the lighter color now next to it, 8th one on the second row, and do our highlight on the top all the way through. Beautiful. Then we'll do the same thing with our overlay layer. So add a layer above it, click on it instead of to a clipping mask, click the N and set this layer to overlay. Grab our creamy color again, 9th one on the second row, and same brush, we'll drop it to 5%. And again, do a really bright highlight on some of the pieces of the hill at the very, very top. And then again, maybe, yeah, some kind of like hilly shapes very lightly throughout, like so. And then once again, let's lower the opacity on this layer. It's a little bit bright. So on our layer menu, click the O on this layer and drag the opacity down a little bit, maybe to like 70% on this one. Looks good. So now we have all of our texture and variation and stuff going on our hills. So we're going to kind of do that for everything. So we'll do it with the sun and then we'll end up doing it with our car as well. So next up is our sun, though. Let's go ahead and add that. So on our layer menu, let's go ahead and at this point, we can snap these layers together if you're happy with them. So I'm going to snap my clipping masks to each hill, like so. So now I have my two hills. They're still separate, but all snapped together. Add a new layer right above layer 1, so we're behind our hills. Grab our sun color, 4th one on the top row, and let's go back to our monoline brush to lay down our initial shape. Same settings as before, 30% for our size. And I am going to just make a good circle right here behind the hill. Hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. Touch your finger on the screen to make it a perfect circle. Set it to just a good size, and then we can always resize it. But let's go ahead and fill it in first. Arrow tool on uniform, and we can change the size if we need to, and just kind of change the placement here. So I'm just going to kind of place it right up on this hill, kind of towards the left side, where there's that little space there for it. So place it wherever you would like to. That looks great. Now we'll do the same thing with this sun that we did for our hills. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer above our circle layer. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask. And then on our color palette, let's grab the next one in line, 5th one on the top row. Back to our quoll brush under the artistic category. And one good all over texture layer. Boom. Layer menu. Click on this layer and turn on alpha lock. And now we have on our color palette, we have 2 lighter and 1 darker color. So let's grab our 3rd one in this section here, 6th one on the top row, and grab our soft brush again under the airbrushing category. Our size can stay kind of small, maybe like 8% or so. And we're actually going to kind of highlight like in from the edge a little bit. So just kind of right towards the center here. Just kind of right in there, like center, and then a little bit towards the edge, not all the way to the edge. Okay, then we have a lighter color still, 7th one on the top row. Let's maybe lower our size back to like 5 or so and kind of add some more quick highlights in certain sections, kind of towards the edge, but again, not on the edge. So something like that. Then let's grab our darker color now, 8th one on the top row. And same kind of low brush settings, and this is going to just be a quick shadow around the edges. So very, very lightly on the edges here. I'm just kind of poking this in just a smidge. We don't want to see a ton of it. But something like that all the way around. Not like next to the hill or anything. This wouldn't necessarily be in shadow because it's like floating in the sky. So just something like that for our sun. And then lastly, another overlay layer. So layer menu, add a new layer above our clipping mask here. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask as well. Click the N and set it to overlay. Grab our cream color again, 9th one on the second row, and same brush at like 5%. And I'm just going to go through and again, kind of like where these other highlighty areas are, I'm just going to go over them just a smidge to add a little bit of a glow there. Nothing too crazy, and then we might lower the opacity again. So on our layer menu, click the O on this layer, and we can kind of mess around with that. I might set it to like 85% or so. That looks great. So that's it for our sun. Okay, so we are moving right along here. We're going to draw the ground really quick where our car is going to sit, and then we'll start drawing our car. So that'll take, a little while to get that all done, but that's okay. We are doing a great job here. So on our layer menu, let's go ahead and snap these layers of our sun together onto one layer, and then add a layer at the very top. Grab our first color on the last row of the color palette, and grab our selection tool, set to rectangle, and turn on color fill. Starting on the bottom left outside of our canvas, I am going to draw straight across, all the way across, and then go up maybe like a fifth or a fourth on the screen here, and this will be how big our ground is. So something like that. Let that go to fill it in. Selection tool to turn it off. That looks great. This is where our car will sit. So adjust that if you need to. You can always grab it with your arrow tool and like move it down further on the screen, keeping it centered, or you can change it to freeform and like adjust it that way if you need to. Okay, but again, let's add some texture to it. So we're just going to do one quick texture layer, not all the different highlights and shadows and stuff. For now, we'll add a shadow under the car when we're done with it. But for now, just on our layer menu, let's just click on this layer and turn on alpha lock right on this layer. Grab our next color, second one on this bottom row, and switch back to our quell brush under the artistic category. And again, one quick layer all the way across to add some texture. And that's it for our ground. So we're also going to add our trees later after our car is done, so that we kind of know where best to place them. So now we can get started on our car. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer on top of everything. And we are going to start our car with a rectangle. So now on our color palette, let's switch to number 2, the second color palette, and grab the first color on that first row. Grab our selection tool again, rectangle and color fill still turned on. And I'm going to start down here and I'm just going to make kind of a square-ish rectangle. It's just a little bit longer than it is like vertical and not very big, maybe about like this, but just a good kind of box to get us started. Okay, let's grab it with our arrow tool, move it around or resize it if you need to. Again, a little bit longer than it is tall. I'm going to go ahead and center this on our center yellow line vertically here. Okay, and then in terms of placement, I want it kind of floating above the road here, so the bottom of it is above the road. And then I'm going to downsize it quite a bit more, so maybe about more like this, and then center it on our center yellow line. So again, small gap there at the bottom, but we don't want it too giant. We don't want it like way bigger than our hills or anything. So I think something like this is good. Okay, now we're going to kind of start creating the shape of it. So let's turn on symmetry for this first little bit. So under our gear icon, under Canvas, click to turn on the drawing guide, click Edit Drawing Guide, and set it to Symmetry. You should see a vertical line pop up. If you don't, you might need to click Vertical under Options there, and then go ahead and click Done. And now on our layer menu, this layer should say Assisted on it. If it doesn't, click on it and turn on Drawing Assist. We're going to grab our eraser tool on the monoline brush as well. My size is at 30, opacity at 100. And we're going to just create a slight angle on each side. So I'm going to kind of start right at this bottom right corner and draw a line up this way. Hold it down until it turns perfectly straight. Let that go, but then click this edit line button at the top so we can adjust it. So I want it to meet up with this corner here, or at least like cut it off even if you need to, but I don't want any like flat vertical space here. So at least cut to the corner. And then in terms of like the angle, very, very shallow like angle. So not like way in like this. So I'm just cutting off just a sliver of it on the left and right side. So it kind of looks like this now. Then I'm going to grab my eraser and erase all this other stuff here just with my brush really quick to get rid of it. Okay, so that is a good start there. I might make it a little shorter from top to bottom, so I'm going to grab it with my arrow tool again on freeform and just kind of squash it a little bit from top to bottom. Nothing too crazy. Might even make it like a little bit wider too, and then recenter it again. So do what you got to do to kind of keep adjusting it. That is what we got now. Okay, then let's go to our layer menu and click on this layer and turn off drawing assist. So no more symmetry. So now we're going to create like the front shape of it. So there's going to be a cutout here where like the windshield is and the front, like the hood of the car. So on just the right side, we're going to go up a ways, maybe about a little less than halfway-ish, maybe right here. And I'm just going to erase a line this way, hold it down until it turns perfectly straight. And then if you touch your finger on the screen, this is perfectly horizontal. We want to be up from that a little bit. So if you hold your finger on the screen and keep moving, it'll snap to these different angles. So let's maybe set this other angle. So one up from horizontal, and we'll kind of cut right there. And then I'm not quite to my symmetry line, a little ways from it, just kind of a short little, this is like the hood. So I'm like almost halfway between the symmetry line and the edge of my shape is where I ended it. Okay, you can click this edit line button at the top if you need to adjust it at all, feel free to do so. But I'm going to go back in with my eraser again and start from here and go up and to the left just a little bit. So again, if you hold it down and then you touch your finger on the screen, this is perfectly vertical. We're going to go 2 from that. So we're right at this angle here. Okay, then we'll erase everything else outside of it just with my eraser. Being careful next to those edges so that we don't accidentally touch our car. Okay, so then this is what we're left with. So again, I'm going to stretch it out just a little bit more. So with my arrow tool on freeform, I'm just going to stretch it a little bit longer now that we have that shape laid out there. But otherwise, this looks good. So then that's it for like the shape of it for the most part. Let's go ahead and make the cream colored top now. So to do that, we're actually going to go to our layer menu, click on this layer with our car, and click select. So then nothing happens because color fill is turned on, but if we turn off color fill, you should see diagonal lines all around it. Go to our layer menu, add a new layer on top of it, and you should still see your diagonal lines. Grab our cream color now, third one on the top row, and with our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab, we are going to start just a little ways down from like the top of the hood here. So we're down on this just a little bit and go straight across to the left, hold down until it turns perfectly smooth, touch your finger on the screen to make it perfectly horizontal. Beautiful. Then we want to fill in the rest of this. So let's just drag and drop on top of the line here. If yours overfills like mine did, just hold it on the screen and then drag it to the left so you can decrease the threshold a little bit there. So it just fills that top area. Okay, awesome. That is a great start there. So this is nice because now they're on separate layers. So we could have done like a clipping mask and just like filled this in white and clipped to it. But we want to do other stuff to this and on top of it and stuff. So that's why we made it on its own layer. So that's how you can do that by selecting one shape and then, then it mirrors it exactly, but on its own layer. Okay, so then let's just kind of keep on going. So then on our layer menu, let's go back to our teal shape here and grab our teal color again, first one on the second row, and grab our monoline brush, and we're just going to make some quick little cutouts for our headlight and tail light. So on the back side here, now that we have our cream color laid down, we can go and on the back side here, right under the cream color, I'm just going to kind of go out, follow the shape down, and come back in, maybe like halfway through the rest of this body here. So I just made a little poke out there. Beautiful. And then on the front side, a little bit lower is going to be our tail light. So I'm going to come maybe like halfway up this teal color now, poke out horizontally, follow it down at that angle, and then kind of come back in. The bottom part of this here will be covered up with our little fender. But we just want that little poke out piece there for our headlight to stick off of. Okay, so this is how it looks now. So now let's go ahead and make the windows. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer above all of our layers so far and grab our first window color, which is going to be the first one on the second row. Grab our monoline brush again. And let's first start with like a horizontal line. So a little ways in from like where this hood is and meets our like windshield area, we're going to start in a little ways from that right there and draw straight down to the back side, leaving a little gap at the backside as well. Hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. Touch your finger on the screen to make it perfectly horizontal. Okay, then we're going to kind of follow some lines. So then on the front side here, we're going to follow this up till there's a little gap at the top still. So try to kind of mirror that same angle as best as you can. Same thing on the back side here. We're going to mirror this angle. So up, leaving a little gap at the top again. Okay, hold those down as you go, and then we'll make another one across the top. Hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly horizontal, and hopefully they come together pretty closely. If not, just kind of fill that in. Okay, so now we have one big shape. We're going to fill the whole thing in, and then we're going to make an eraser mark to separate them. So with our eraser again, on the monoline brush, we're going to erase down the middle kind of, so maybe right about here, we're going to start and make one vertical eraser mark, hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth, touch your finger on the screen to make it perfectly vertical. Then I'm just going to kind of go and make it a little bit thicker, so I'll erase a couple more lines, touching my finger to the screen each time, till we get two separate windows like so. While we're here, let's go ahead and add our texture and stuff to our windows. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer above them. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask. And just like before with our hills, we're going to do a similar thing. So we have our second color on the second row is slightly darker. Let's go ahead and grab that and then grab our quill brush under the artistic category again. And since they're both on the same layer, we can just go all the way across in one motion, like so. Layer menu, click on this layer and turn on alpha lock. Grab our darker color now, third one on the second row, and switch back to our soft brush under the airbrushing category. Set our size pretty low to like 3 or so %. And I'm just going to kind of go through and for my front one here on the left side here, we're going to kind of come down like this and then kind of come across the bottom to add like a shadow there. Maybe it looks kind of like a seat or something inside. And then on the back one, kind of the same thing, come in from the left side and then maybe across the bottom, like so. No highlight on this layer, but we are going to add some streaks to the window now. So on our layer menu, let's go ahead and add a new layer above these. And we are going to add our streaks using some straight lines. So we're going to grab our fourth color on the second row, switch our brush now to the gloaming brush under the drawing category. So find that. Let's see, our opacity is at 100, our size, let's do like maybe 10 and see how that looks. Okay, so then we're going to go through and just create some streaks. So I'll start on this front one. I'll start kind of in this corner and I'll draw a streak like this. Hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth and then touch your finger on the screen and find an angle. I'm going to do this like 45-degree one, so it's 3 up from horizontal right there. And then we're just going to match that each time. So then I'll do a shorter one next to it, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen. Maybe another one next to it again, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen. And then we'll do the same thing for the back ones. So again, I'll start in the corner, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen, find that same angle. Another one. Another shorter one. Beautiful. So just a few quick streaks through those. And then that's it for our windows. So then on our layer menu, we can snap all those layers together. So those are our windows. Okay, while we're here, let's just go ahead and finish off the top of our car, the cream color. So it's just going to be a quick alpha lock with the texture added. So click on this layer, turn on alpha lock, grab our next cream color, fourth one on the top row. So the third one was our base. This one's just slightly lighter, fourth one on the top row. Back to our artistic brush. And all over with that to add some quick texture. You can't see it a ton, but it's there just like everything else. We're going to have a little bit more to add to the car before we can do that on our teal color, but that kind of finishes off the top little area here. So then let's go ahead and add our wheels. So add a new layer on top of everything. And let's grab our first wheel color, the first one on the bottom row, and grab our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. So let's start maybe towards the front here. So like right under the hood area, let's just start and make a circle. So it's going to go over our teal shape just a little bit. So a good sized circle there, hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. Touch your finger on the screen to make it a perfect circle and go ahead and fill it in. Arrow tool on uniform if you need to resize it at all. But yeah, it's not huge, but it's not tiny. So it kind of comes like right from like the front part of my window and then a little bit in from this front part of our car here. So about there, that's a good size. So set a good size, and then again, it's going to overlap our teal color just a little bit. And then layer menu, let's make a duplicate of this circle layer. So slide to left and hit duplicate, be on the top one. Grab our first of our lighter grays now for our rim. So that's going to be starting with the 5th one on the bottom row. So drag and drop to fill it in. Grab it with our arrow tool. Downsize it on uniform a good amount. Recenter it with our blue lines there. Drag it down some more if you need to and recenter it again till we get something kind of like this. So a good amount of our tire still showing. We might downsize it just a smidge more. Center it again. Awesome. Now we're going to kind of do the coloring on these two, and then we will duplicate it for the back one. So on our layer menu, let's click on our black tire layer, add a layer above that. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask. Grab our 2nd color on the bottom row, so it's slightly lighter than our base color was. Grab our coal brush again, lay down our quick texture. Layer menu, click on this layer, turn on alpha lock, and then we have a darker and lighter version of it. So 3rd color on the bottom row, back to our soft brush at really low, like 2 to 3%. And we'll add some kind of shadow like next to our rim here a little bit, pretty lightly, maybe towards the bottom of the tire that's like near the ground. And then maybe like a little bit on the top edge that'll be covered by like the hubcap. So something kind of like that to start with our darker color. Then let's grab our lighter color, 4th one on the bottom row, and just add like a quick highlight to anything else, just kind of on like the left and right edge here, like so. Then back to our layer menu, let's do the same thing now for our top like rim layer. So that lighter gray circle, add a layer above it, click on it, set it to a clipping mask, and then let's grab the 6th color on the bottom row, back to our coal brush to start, lay that down. Layer menu, click on this layer, turn on alpha lock, and let's see, we have 2 lighter versions of that now. So let's start with our 7th one on the bottom row. Let's grab our soft brush again, and for our lighter color, let's go ahead and like start in the center and kind of work that out a little bit. And then let's grab our even lighter color now, 8th one on the bottom row, lower our size a little bit to like low 2%, and we'll start in the center and kind of work that out a little bit as well. So then we just kind of have it lighter, medium, and darker on the edge. So that is it for our wheels. So now we can go ahead and snap all those together. So including the clipping masks and both circles, we'll snap them all onto one layer. So now we have a wheel. Slide to the left and hit duplicate on that. Grab it with your arrow tool. With snapping turned on, you should be able to drag it to the left and see these 3 blue lines that keep them lined up together. So just drag this towards the back end, maybe like kind of right under this other back window. Still a good ways from our very back of our car, something like that. And I know it still looks like a little funny right now, but it'll all come together. Okay, so then on our layer menu, let's go ahead and snap those 2 wheel layers together so they're all on one layer. Now let's go ahead and since we just did that, let's go ahead and make our little fender piece on the bottom. So add a new layer above our tires, grab our 5th color on the top row of our color palette, and grab our selection tool. Set it to rectangle and turn color fill back on. Okay, so starting on the back side here, I'm going to go a little bit under where my little cutout is here. I'm going to leave a little gap and then start about there. Outside of my shape of ways is fine. So maybe a little bit higher than that, but we want to be zoomed out so we can see the front side too, so we can do this all in one motion. But we can adjust it. So let's just draw a good rectangle and then we can adjust it. So draw a good long rectangle off the front and back side. Pretty skinny from top to bottom, but then grab it with your arrow tool on freeform and we can adjust it here. So I want it a little ways below this and then over my tires a little ways. So, extending a good ways below my teal body of my car. But then we want that a little bit of a gap there on this back side. And then extend it a good ways out on the left side and a good ways out on the right side. We can adjust this front light area, which we might need to do. Mine's a little too low, but this is fine. So again, adjust it out on the front and back side. So it looks something like this. Okay, now we want a little cutout for our wheels. So on our layer menu with this rectangle layer, let's grab it with our arrow tool and let's move it up a little ways, kind of trying to keep it in line with where it was so it's extending off the front and back side. But then let's go up a little ways till we are just like overlapping with the top of our wheels just a little bit there. Okay, layer menu, go back to our wheel layer, click on it and click select. It'll automatically fill it in since color fill is turned on, but click on it to turn it off and they should go back to normal. And then you should see diagonal lines all on the outside, and then you should see where your wheel and rectangle overlap. It's like you see the teal color with no lines, and that's what we're going to erase to cut out. So that looks good. Go back to our layer when you go back to our teal line layer, grab our eraser tool, and everything should still be selected, and you should just be able to erase right through there to get rid of that little overlap. And then we're going to extend this top side a little bit too, so don't worry if this gets really skinny on your wheel there or on your rectangle there. But do that for the front and back side. Beautiful. Selection tool again to turn that off. Go back to our layer menu. With this teal layer, grab it with your arrow tool and just move it straight down so we're on top of our wheels a little bit. And then we want to go back like to below our body there or right at the bottom of our body. So again, there should be a little sliver on the back side showing there. We can fix this front part, probably make our headlight a little higher up. But that's what it looks like now. So there's just that little overlap on our tires. Beautiful. Okay, let's grab our eraser tool again. And on the front edge here, I'm going to kind of try to mirror this like angle that my light piece is at. So I'm going to go out a little bit from it and kind of just mirror that there. Kind of take a little chunk off that. Maybe round the edges a little bit. Something like that. Off the front side, same thing on the back side now. So again, just a little ways from the edge there, I'm going to kind of mirror that angle. Cut that all off. Maybe round those edges a little bit with my eraser. Something like that. Okay, then our brush tool again, same color. And let's go back to our monoline brush at 30%. Okay, so now we're going to kind of, again, mirror the tire shape. So kind of like right from the edge of the tire here, I'm just going to go straight up and kind of do a quick round there. Hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. Click the edit arc button at the top to kind of adjust it and just kind of mirror this like tire shape at the top there. Something kind of like that. And then we'll fill this in. So it just kind of looks like it goes right above our tire there. Okay, awesome. Then we'll do the same thing on this front side. Hold it down, click the edit arc button, adjust it a little bit, fill it in. Awesome. Then we're going to do a similar thing on the top of our car. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer. Same color, let's grab our selection tool again with rectangle selected and turn color fill back on. And then across the top of our car, just extending out a little bit on the side, on the front and back side, we'll make a little small rectangle across the top. Grab our eraser tool and then we'll simply just fix the angles and stuff. So on the front side, it'll extend out a little bit, but we're going to kind of match that angle and round the corners. Boom. Match the angle on the back side and round the corners so it extends off just a little bit. Feel free to adjust it like the size of it with your selection tool if you need to. But yeah, that is just the little piece on our top. Okay, so now on our layer menu, we can snap those two layers together, our two dark teal layers. So they're all on one layer. And then we're going to keep drawing on this layer with this same color, just two more quick detail pieces. So the same fifth color on the top row. Let's be on our monoline brush. And we're going to create the handle. So the handle is going to be, so kind of right where this, between the windows comes down, this is going to be where our door line is. And then on our teal area here, right towards the top there, kind of like in a little bit. So imagine a line right here, in from that a little bit. So kind of right under this left side of this front window, we're just going to draw a quick like rectangle. So you can hold some lines down if you want to, or just quickly draw it, or you can use your selection tool even and just make a quick little rectangle there, whatever works. So maybe we'll do that. So that's our handle. Then we also need our mirrors. So that's going to be with our monoline brush right on the front of this window here. I'm just going to draw a quick vertical line, hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth, touch your finger on the screen to make it perfectly vertical. Small little line there, and then a quick curved line to the left of it there. That is our mirror. Very simple, but that kind of completes our little extra detail pieces there. So then now we can add our texture. So on our layer menu, let's click on this layer and turn on alpha lock. Grab our next color and line 6-1 on the top row, slightly darker, and switch back to our coal brush under the artistic category. And once again, just add a quick layer of this all over. Now we can finish off the rest of our car. We're almost done. We need to add the tire on the back, the front and back light, and then our line details on the car and the texture on our teal area. So we're almost done. Let's go ahead and just add our tire now. So let's go to our layer menu and add a layer underneath all of our car layers so far. Grab our tire color again, the first one on the bottom row. Back to our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab at 30%. I'm going to go down on the back side a little bit, down the top, maybe starting right about here, and I'm going to draw a quick horizontal line out. So hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. Touch your finger on the screen to make it perfectly horizontal. Okay, and then a little ways below that now, maybe like right here where the taillight's going to be, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to kind of have it stick out just a smidge, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen. Maybe not stick out as far as our other one did, like lengthwise, I mean, so they're kind of almost in a vertical line with each other, but not quite. So that looks good, and then we'll connect them with a curved line. So I'm just going to connect with a curved line, hold that down, adjust that if you need to. Beautiful. Then let's go ahead and connect the shape to fill it in. So I'm going to draw like through the car here, fill it in. And that is our tire. Feel free to adjust that if you need to. I might just bring it in just a little bit so it's not sticking off so far. It's kind of thick looking. So maybe more about like that. Okay, now let's add our texture to it. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer above this one. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask. And then grab the second color on the bottom row. Back to our artistic brush. Lay that texture down. Layer menu, click on this clipping mask and turn on alpha lock. And then we have a darker and lighter version. So let's grab our darker color, third one on the bottom row. Back to our soft brush under the airbrushing category. And our size at like 3%. And I am just going to maybe go close to the car with this darker color to create a quick shadow there. Then let's grab our lighter color, fourth one on the bottom row, and add kind of a highlight to the top and left side, like so. And then that is it for our tire. Okay, let's go ahead and add our headlight and taillight. So on our layer menu. So first let's adjust our teal layer for this. So back to my teal layer here, and back to my teal color, which is the first one on the first row, and back to my monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. My back one looks good. Feel free to adjust that if you need to. But then this front one definitely is too short. So I'm just going to make mine a little bit taller. Same thing, kind of match that angle. Fill that in. So we just have a bigger piece sticking off the front there for my headlight. Okay, so then to make the headlight and taillight, let's add a new layer above our tire layer that we just created, which we can actually snap those layers together, our clipping mask to it. Add a layer above that, below all of our other car layers. On our color palette, let's grab our yellow color first, ninth one on the bottom row, same monoline brush, and off the front side here, we're just going to make a quick curved line, hold it down, fill that in. Then let's grab our red color, the last one on the last row, same layer, same brush. We're just going to go back here and add a smaller little curved line, hold that down, fill that in. Something like that for our headlight and taillight. If you need to move them or resize them, you can grab them with your selection tool on freehand with color fill turned off. You can like select around one and then arrow tool, move it around or resize it or whatever if you need to. But that looks good for those. So now we just need to add the last little details on our car. So on our layer menu, let's go to our teal layer. So click on this layer and turn on alpha lock. Grab our second color on the top row to do our texture. And we'll go back to our artistic brush and add this all over our teal color there to add that texture. Boom. And then we need our little details. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer above our white top layer. Just a normal layer there. Click the N though, and we'll set it to multiply. Grab this 7th color on the top row, this first gray. And let's go ahead and grab our dry ink brush under the inking category for this. And I have my opacity at 100 for the brush, my size, let's do 10. And I'm going to go right through these two windows here. So we're underneath this dark teal layer, so we can start right there. Draw a straight line down through it, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen. Click the edit line button if you need to move it around, but just centered right there through the windows from top to bottom. Awesome. Then we're going to add just like a few little like fun detail lines also. So maybe like next to this front fender here, I'm just going to do another quick like vertical line, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen. Maybe we'll do like a horizontal one on the door, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen. Maybe like a couple, maybe one like right here under the hood, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen. And then maybe a few on the back side here in the teal area. So I'll do one, touch my finger, maybe a smaller one, touch my finger, and maybe one more right there, touch my finger. So something like that, just kind of for some fun detail. But once that is done, that is actually it for our car. So then on our layer menu, if there's any other snapping together you want to do, feel free to do so. You can snap the whole car together if you want, or if you don't want to snap it all together, what I'm going to do is group it. So I'm going to grab my top car layer, slide right all the way down until I get to my last car layer, not including the ground here. So just the tire all the way up to the top teal layers, and then click group. And now if we minimize this group with the arrow and we're like selected on this thing that says new group, we can grab it with our arrow all at once and we can move it around or we can resize it or anything like that. But now it's all one piece. So I'm just going to maybe downsize it just a smidge and kind of center it here or whatever looks good. Again, I have like a little gap where I can see like my hill underneath the fender there, but then, you know, a little ways from the bottom still so we can make a shadow underneath it. So that being said, let's go ahead and do our shadow underneath it now. And then the last thing we'll do is add our trees and their shadows on our hill. So on our layer menu, let's add a layer right above this ground layer here. Click the N and set it to multiply. And then we have these 3 colors last on the first row. So the last 3 ones here, lighter to darkest. And these will be our shadow colors. So I'm going to start with this like not the lightest one, we just use that for our shadows on the car, but this second gray one here, so it's 8th one on the top row. And we're going to go back to our gloaming brush under the drawing category for this. So I have that opacity at 100, so we're going to increase our size quite a bit, maybe to like 70%. I'm just going to start like under the tires here and kind of go from tire to tire through to the front of the car, maybe a little bit towards us on the bottom here. Extending there, kind of extending behind it a little bit to just create like a whole shadow there, like so. So that is just the start of our shadow. Then we're going to grab our next color, the 9th one on the top row, slightly darker, and we'll kind of keep that closer to the tires this time, but just kind of deepening up some of the shadow just for the heck of it, really just to kind of create some more variation there. But kind of leaving like the edges lighter. So I went kind of like all the way through this shadow, but just left the edges lighter. So just went in the middle of all of it. And then we're going to grab our darkest color, last one on the top row. We'll maybe decrease our size a little to like 50 or so. And we're going to go right underneath the tires with this one, just where they're touching the ground to really darken that up there. Like so. So then once that's done, that's it for our shadow there. Okay, so then lastly is our trees. We're going to make one tree. We're going to duplicate it for the others. And they're just very simple trees, and then we will create shadows from them. So on our layer menu, let's add this right above our hill layers, right in there. Grab our dark green color, 5th one on the 2nd row. Go back to our dry ink brush under the inking category. Let's set our size pretty high, maybe to like 30%. Then I'm going to start on the top of this hill here to make my first one. So I'm going to Push pretty hard to make a good like vertical line. So hold that down until it turns perfectly straight. Touch your finger on the screen to make it perfectly vertical, but pretty short, but that's just the starting line there. Then we're going to do very simple tree shapes. So off the top, I'm going to curve down into the right, curve down into the left, go down a little bit, do the same thing, maybe out a little bit further, go down a little bit, do the same thing, maybe a little bit further. So adjust the size of your brush if you need to, depending on how hard you push down, and just kind of get a good tree shape. So I ended up with 3 branches, but you might do like 4 or something, but that's my simple tree shape there. Grab it with my arrow tool on uniform and adjust the size if I need to, but I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to set that one there. Now we're just going to make duplicates of this for a few more. So on my layer menu, I'll slide to the left on this and hit duplicate, grab it with my arrow tool, maybe move it down into the right a little bit, another duplicate, arrow tool, maybe like right here, duplicate, maybe on the left side over here. Keep on going. If you're running out of layers, you can snap like all of them together except for one. So like if you're running out of layers, like these 4 are placed, I can snap those onto one layer and I still have my one singular one. So then I can place it, make a duplicate of it, and then I can snap my previous one to my other layer with all the other ones, but I still have my singular one here to move. So maybe I'll move this one like here, another duplicate, move it here. So just do a good amount. I might end up with these. So I did 7. So then I'm going to snap those 7 together onto one layer. So those are my trees. Now I just need a quick shadow for them. So on my layer menu, I'm going to add a layer right above my hill layers below my trees now. Click this N and set it to multiply. No clipping mask or anything, just there. We'll grab our shadow color, which is this 6th one on the 2nd row. And we're going to use our gloaming brush again for this. But let's maybe drop our size a little bit to like 30% or so. And we're just going to kind of create some quick shadows coming from each tree. So essentially, the sun is here. We want our shadows to be coming off the sun. So like this one right here, it's going to be kind of like straight down almost, maybe the teeniest bit to the right. So something kind of like that. I'm just going to get kind of like thicker at the base and then make like a little triangle coming off of it. Nothing crazy, just a very simple shadow. And then wherever we come now, like this one here is way to the left of the sun, so our shadow is going to come kind of like this. So again, I'm just going to kind of like make a straightish line at the base and then kind of come off of it in like triangular shape. And then same thing now, this one over here, it's going to be even further to the left, so we'll make it kind of like this. And if any of yours are like close to the edge, don't go off the hill. So I guess if mine was here, like I don't want my shadow like here. I still want it on the hill. So if that happens, draw it as you would normally. Use your eraser on the monoline brush to just kind of touch it up really quick. So those are my first 3 shadows. So back to my brush and we'll keep on going. So this one's going to go in the other direction now. Okay, this one kind of same thing roughly. And then my top 2 up here are, yeah, going to go kind of like really to the right. And then, yeah, like this one here, we don't want it to go off the hill. So I'm just going to kind of draw it as far as it goes till it goes to the edge of the hill there. So something kind of like that for all of our shadows. So that's just helpful to kind of make the sun appear stronger. But you can kind of take it or leave it with those. But I think they add a fun detail to it. If you feel like they're too dark, you can always go to your layer menu and click the M on this layer and drag the opacity down or something if you just want some really light shadows. Maybe I'll set mine around like 80 or so. But once that is done, I'm going to go to my gear icon, turn off my drawing guide so that I don't have to see that line anymore. We only used it for a moment there, and then I left it on the whole time. But that is it for our drawing today. So I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you liked the way that yours turned out, and I hope that you maybe learned something new. If you would like to share your drawing on Instagram, I would love to see it. So go ahead and post it there and then tag me so that I can check it out. And while you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching.